Fury 325 has been highly regarded as one of the best roller coasters in the world for the longest time. The attraction opened in 2015 and I first got to ride it in 2022. But if you've been following this channel for a while, you already know that my Carowinds trip to 2022 was a complete mistake. It wasn't supposed to happen at all. The only reason I went was because I got stuck in Charlotte because American Airlines canceled one of my flights. So I got a few hours at Carowinds. But in 2024, I dedicated a trip specifically for that park. So I got so many more laps on Fury. I know this ride way better than I used to. I got 20 rides on the whole trip, including 11 rides in one day. I got 6 night rides. I rode it 8 times in a row on my first day. I got 4 rides in the front row, a ton of rides in the back row, and even a few rain rides. So we're gonna go excruciatingly in depth with this ride experience today. If you're new here or if you're not subscribed, I would greatly appreciate your support. I'm a pretty small coaster and theme park YouTube channel, so every like, comment, and subscription means a lot to me. The channel has been seeing some amazing growth over the last couple months, so it's made me extremely happy. Thank you so much for all the support, and I hope to keep that ball rolling. So let's dig into Fury 325. Right off the bat, the presentation of this ride is absolutely incredible. It totally dominates the entrance area of the park. This ride and Thunder Striker basically create a berm for Carowinds. Like, it's just a massive mass of steel track that just circles the entire front half of the park, and that's a really cool visual that brings a unique energy to Carowinds that I wish other parks had, because obviously, like, when you think of a berm at a theme park, you think of something like Disneyland that has the railroad go around it and it like immerses you inside of Disneyland. But Carowinds is obviously more of an amusement park, so just having that those 2 massive roller coasters just completely circle you in, it just brings a different energy to that park that I wish other parks had. It's after riding Fury this many times, it's still like impossible to comprehend how large this attraction is. It's just so tall and it's so fast and it takes up so much land. Like, walking from the treble clef to the station takes a long amount of time. I already made a review for Thunder Striker, so if you haven't watched that video, go ahead and check it out, please. But these 2 rides are an absolutely incredible 1-2 punch. Thunder Striker and Fury are absolutely right up my alley. These are my type of rides. Fury has an unreal layout. Like, it might be the best non-inverting layout in the country, or maybe even the world. Like, there's just so much diversity, and we're gonna dig into this element by element in just a moment. One more thing about the presentation is the entrance sign. It's beautiful. It's huge. It's really well done. Took so many photos in front of it. It's just very, very eye-catching. One more thing is, I noticed that around the attraction there was a lot of signage about no preferred seating, but when I went in 2024 they had no problem with row requests, so I'm not sure what the deal is with that. Maybe on like extremely busy days at Carowinds they might be stricter with that, but like the signage was worded like very aggressively, but in reality it wasn't a problem at all, so I found that a little bizarre. So let's dig into this layout. Firstly, the restraints are B&M clamshells, and if you know anything about me, you know that I love B&M clamshells. They're very comfortable. They allow you to have airtime. You don't even have to hold up the restraints, and it won't come down. It won't crush your legs like some other clamshells, like the clamshells on Hang Time at Knott's. Or I feel like RMC restraints can crush your legs sometimes and like kill the airtime room. You don't have to worry about that at all on Fury. And this lift hill is absolutely massive. It's like insane. You go up the lift pretty quickly, and it still takes a good amount of time because the structure is just so large. Like, when you're at the bottom of the lift hill, just looking up is insane. Like, this is literally the tallest lift hill in the world, which is like impossible to comprehend. Like, this structure is just absolutely massive, and you can see it from miles away. Like, I remember when I was driving into Carowinds for the first time after landing at the airport, you can see Fury from so far away because it's just that huge. And obviously with a long lift hill, you have a very, very long drop. Fury has one of my favorite drops of all time. I love this thing. It lasts so long and the airtime is so good, it kind of ruined the other drops in the park, especially Thunder Striker, because it's literally just a smaller version of the drop on Fury. Fury wasn't my first Giga coaster. It was actually Orion at Kings Island, and when I first rode Orion, I was a little disappointed with the drop because I was expecting Giga drops to have more powerful airtime than B&M Hyper drops. I wouldn't say it's more powerful, especially this applies to Fury as well, but it's definitely way more sustained. So after that initial initial disappointment washed off with Orion, and I still love Orion. I actually made a review video for Orion as well if you'd like to check that out. But the drop on Orion and Fury feels very, very similar, so it's not more powerful than the drop on Thunderstriker, but it is way more sustained, and that makes it way better. Obviously, in the front row, you're going to have an incredible sensation of speed. Any drop is going to be best in the back row, and that's obviously the case with the Giga Coaster, so you have the most sustained airtime in the back. But in the front, it's really interesting because you start getting airtime after you pass that like one massive support. I would say I estimated that's where your airtime starts in the front row, and then you don't land until the valley. So that's really, really crazy. But obviously the drop is better in the back because it's more sustained and more powerful. But the Fury's drop in the front row is much more sustained than any other B&M hyper drop I've ever experienced in the front row. The first valley is very, very intense. Front, middle, back. This was like a consistent gray out moment for me. And during my many re-rides, like the first valley drained my body to the point where I had to take a couple breaks. Like this ride is incredibly re-rideable, obviously, but the first valley was definitely the element that took the biggest toll on my body. It is by far the shakiest part of the ride, which makes sense. Outside of that, this coaster is very, very smooth. It's just an insanely intense moment, especially in the front row where you feel the wind in your face. Like my cheeks were literally flapping because of how fast you were going in the front row. I don't think I've ever felt that on any other roller coaster. Maybe Superman at Magic Mountain, but that might be it. Because I didn't get to ride Top Thrill Dragster in the front row, which is probably one of my biggest regrets as a coaster enthusiast. So this first element is pretty interesting. If you know me, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of turning. So having an element that's just a massive turn as your first element isn't the most impressive opening act, like aside from the wild first drop. But this one has a few dynamics to it that make it more interesting than a turn on like Pipeline, for example. When I first rode the attraction in 2022, I thought it had airtime dropping out of it, but in 2024, I wouldn't say airtime. It's not quite that powerful, but I would say there's weightlessness cresting into the turn and cresting out of it, which you wouldn't really be able to tell from the profiling of the element. And then the physical turn in between the crest in and the crest out, like that actual turning motion, is actually pretty powerful. You feel some decent G's in there. After that first element, you're gonna rip through a couple low to the ground turn. The first low to the ground turn is by far my favorite. It's really aggressive. It like pops you out of your seat because of how fast and how whippy the transition is. And I would argue it feels like an airtime moment just because it snaps into place so quickly and your body has to like catch up with it, so it like flies out of your seat and then it pulls you back down. And the first turn is the only one to do that, unfortunately, but it's still a beyond impressive moment. Of course, these low to the ground turns had a better sense of speed during my night rides, but it was always impressive. It's very, very fun. Once again, the first one is definitely my favorite, but all of these are very fun moments. And those low to the ground turns are going to lead you to what might be my favorite element of all time. It is this treble clef. So in 2024, I got to ride Iron Gwazi for the first time before I rode Fury again. So when I got back to Carowinds and Fury, at first I was a little disappointed with the sideways airtime on the treble clef because I remember walking away in 2022 thinking that this was the strongest sideways airtime I've ever felt. Obviously that title belongs to Iron Gwazi with that wave turn over the station. It's just bonkers how powerful that thing is. But the more that I rode Fury, the more that feeling washed away. Like this is still absolutely one of my favorite elements of all time. The sideways airtime is very, very strong. On day one of my 2024 trip, I thought the airtime pushed you up in a normal direction while you were in a sideways orientation. But the more that I rode it, that feeling also washed away and it felt like a normal sideways airtime moment that popped you out of your seat in the direction that you were facing, like any other RMC sideways airtime moment. On day 3, I walked away feeling that I still love the treble clef, so this is still absolutely one of my favorite elements of all time. Sideways airtime on any roller coaster is absolutely insane, and this element is pretty tall, so it's a very sustained drop. Looking at the profiling, you might assume that the best seat would be back row left side, but honestly, I like this element equally in any seat in the back row. Because it is an airtime moment, I think it is better in the back than in the front, but it still feels like sideways airtime in the front row. I completely glossed over the first half of the treble clef. Like, the sideways airtime is beyond impressive, but what makes this element one of the best in the world, in my opinion, is the fact that you crest up to it and you get like crushing positive G-forces. So the diversity of forces in one element is absolutely insane, because you feel that intensity cresting up into it, and then it absolutely throws you out of your seat in a sideways orientation. Like, that's just absolutely ridiculous, and there isn't another element that could do anything else like that. Like, it's just absolutely incredible. There is no other element on earth like the treble clef on Fury 325. And I was a band nerd in high school, so the fact that it looks like a treble clef from one angle is just absolutely incredible. Like, I walked 500 feet out of the way just so I could get that shot of it looking like a treble clef. I spent so much time filming Fury. I absolutely love. It's so fun to look at. And the color scheme, I also kind of glossed over, is beautiful. Like, the blue track and the green underbelly of the track. It just pops really well, and you throw on top of that the green clamshells. It's beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love the way that they designed this ride. So after the treble clef, you're gonna dive under the bridge, which is like one of the main entrances for Carowinds, which is really cool. They have lights under the tunnel, and they look really good, especially at night. They really pop at night, obviously. But when you emerge from the tunnel, you really notice how huge this ride is, because you're just so far away from the drop, and you know how massive that structure is because you were just on top of it. So it really puts into perspective how absolutely insane this ride is. It's insane how big this is. Like, you're so far away from the lift hill when you begin your return run. So it's still impossible to comprehend that this ride exists. It's impossible to comprehend how massive it is. It just takes up an insane amount of land. Like, as a Californian, like, all of our theme parks are landlocked. Like, we have no room to expand. So the fact that a ride like this exists, where it just sprawls over like half of the park, is just incredible. After you emerge from the tunnel, you're gonna curve through one of these turns. It's probably one of the weaker elements on Fury. Like, when you're watching a POV, it might look like a dead spot, but honestly, you just experienced one of the greatest elements of all time, and you're still moving at such a fast pace that it doesn't feel like a dead spot at all. But on paper, it's still like a meh moment, you know? Like, it's not a standout like the treble clef or the first low to the ground turn or the drop, of course. But it's not bad at all. I'm not complaining about it. After that, you're gonna rip over an airtime hill. This is a trimmed hill, but if you know me, you know that is not a big deal to me at all. You still get some awesome airtime. You have a great view of the first drop, so an awesome moment in my opinion. And then you're gonna curve through a helix, which is really drawn out. It does give you time to appreciate how fast you are moving, and of course it adds to the duration, which is greatly appreciated. There is a really cool hand chopper with one of the supports from the first turn. It's an awesome moment. But just like the turn after the treble clef, this isn't like a highlight of the ride. I wouldn't say it's a problem at all. It's just not as good as it could have been, you know? Like, obviously if they made it tighter, it would have been more forceful, but because it's more drawn out, I feel like that makes this ride more re-rideable, because as I said, like, the first valley took a toll on my body after riding this ride so many times. So I can't imagine if it was like an actual like intense helix, it probably drained that re-rideability even more. So I'm happy with the way that it is right now, just to be clear. And then after that, you're gonna rip through 2 ejector hills before the brake run. These airtime hills are so sharp and so powerful. They might be my favorite part of the ride, which is kind of insane to say, but these back-to-back hills are just incredible. It's just pure fun. Like, this is my type of airtime right here, and it's an incredible finale to Fury. Cresting into the final brake run is a lot like the mid-course brake run on Mako, where you slow down while you're getting airtime, especially in the back. It's not the best sensation. Like, if you're not holding onto the restraint, or if you don't have your hands up, there's a possibility you could jam your finger on the restraint, which hurts a lot. I did that on Mako one time, and that was not fun at all. So this layout is just absolutely insane. Like, the standout moments, of course, are the drop, the first low to the ground turn, the treble clef, and then the 2 ejector hills at the end. And the diversity of those 4 elements is just absolutely insane. And the rest of the layout is still very fun. Like, it keeps its speed so well. It's just absolutely incredible. Like, you might have clicked on this video thinking I was some sort of contrarian, but I love Fury 325. This ride is absolutely incredible. Like, there's not much else that you can say other than you have to ride it at some point if you're a roller coaster enthusiast. One of the major reasons I wanted to go to Carowinds in 2024 was to get more laps on this ride. Because, like, I rode it 3 times in 2022, and I felt like that was not enough. You know, like, I wanted to know this ride like the back of my hand, and that's what I did. I lapped this ride as much as I could, and it was absolutely worth it. Like, you know, these are core memories as a roller coaster enthusiast, you know? Like, I love this ride so much, and Carowinds as a whole is an incredible park. Like, outside of Fury, I enjoyed my time at Carowinds, but this ride is just incredible, and I'm salty that it's on the other side of the country from me. I wish California had a ride just like Fury, or even a ride like Orion. Like, I love Orion, but Fury is just in a league of its own. Another thing I kind of glossed over is the rain rides that I got on Fury. They were just absolutely incredible. I was too scared to ride it in the front row during the rain. I rode Thunderstriker in the front during like a light sprinkle, and it really hurt, so I was too scared to do the same on Fury, because when I rode Fury, it was like coming down harder, and I was like, I don't want to die, so I rode in the middle and the back, and it wasn't that bad in terms of pain, but like I had to shield my face, and when you shield your face, you can't see the layout, so that just draws out all the forces, because it just keeps you on your toes, because it was just an incredible experience. Like, I get to say that I rode a Giga Coaster in the rain. Like, that's magical. It was a wonderful moment that I got to share with. This is just an absolutely spectacular ride. I don't know how else to say that. Fury 325 is 100% worth your time, and you have to ride it in your lifetime at some point, especially if you watched this entire video. Thank you so much for doing so. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm more than happy to yap about more roller coasters for you. Once again, thank you so much, and I will catch you later.